We live in a world absolutely obsessed with external validation. A world where we scroll endlessly through carefully curated feeds, counting likes as if they were currency, checking our phones with anxious anticipation for replies that never seem to arrive quickly enough, altering our core personalities and suppressing our authentic voices in the desperate hope of being accepted by tribes we do not even respect. In doing so, we commit the gravest error of all. We outsource our entire sense of self-worth to the fickle, chaotic, and often cruel external world, and we suffer profoundly for it. True self-esteem and genuine self-love are not found in the approval of others, nor in a promotion that can be taken away, but rather in the quiet, unshakable, and deeply internal knowledge that you are living in accordance with your highest principles and deepest values, regardless of what the world happens to think of you in any given moment. This is the radical and liberating truth that the ancient Stoics understood with crystalline clarity. This is the truth that modern psychology is only now beginning to rediscover and validate through empirical research on resilience, self-determination, and intrinsic motivation. The Stoics were not dry, emotionless logicians, as they are so often caricatured, but rather deeply passionate human beings who understood that the human heart craves meaning, purpose, and a sense of worth that no external reward can ever truly satisfy. They dedicated their lives to uncovering the practical philosophy that would free ordinary people from the exhausting tyranny of public opinion and the relentless, soul-crushing pursuit of status. The Stoics knew that to build a fortress of genuine self-worth, you must build it from the inside out, beginning with a brutal, unflinching, and thoroughly honest assessment of what is actually within your sphere of influence and what lies eternally beyond it, because this distinction is the very foundation upon which all lasting self-esteem must rest. It is Epictetus, the former slave who rose to become one of history's most profound philosophers, who gave us this essential framework when he declared, "Some things are in our control, and others not." If you stop to truly meditate upon this, to sit with it in silence and let its implications wash over you, you will realize that if your self-esteem is based on things outside your control, like other people's fleeting opinions, you make yourself a willing slave to fortune, a puppet dancing on the strings of circumstance. This is a recipe for a life of perpetual anxiety, fragility, and quiet desperation, because you are building your house on sand that shifts with every tide. And when the storms of life inevitably come, as they always do, your entire sense of self can collapse in an instant, leaving you shattered and disoriented, wondering who you even are without the external markers of success and approval that you had mistakenly come to identify with your very identity. The wise Stoic, by contrast, builds their self-esteem on what is utterly unshakable and permanently within their own command. Their own judgments, their own deliberate choices, their own intentional actions, their own moral character, and their own responses to the events that befall them, creating what Marcus Aurelius famously called the inner citadel, a fortress of the soul that no external force, no insult, no failure, no rejection, no betrayal, and no tragedy can ever breach, because its walls are not made of brick or stone, but of reason, virtue, conscious will, and the unassailable dignity of a human being who knows their own worth. When you wake up each morning, your self-worth should not be held hostage by the first notification that appears on your screen, nor by the first critical remark you hear, nor by the first setback you encounter, but should instead be anchored firmly in the quiet, powerful, and deeply personal decision to be a good person today. To be honest when dishonesty would be easier, to be disciplined when indulgence beckons with its seductive promises, to be kind when cruelty is tempting and would give you a momentary sense of power, and to be just when injustice would benefit you at the expense of another. True self-esteem is nothing less than the inner harmony that emerges when your actions are perfectly aligned with your principles, when your outer life reflects your inner convictions, when there is no gap between what you say you believe and how you actually behave. It is the profound integrity of the soul that no one can give you and no one can take away. A quiet, steady, and radiant confidence that does not need to announce itself, because it is self-evident in every word you speak and every action you take. However, we cannot genuinely love ourselves without first knowing ourselves with unflinching clarity, nor can we build authentic self-esteem while we are actively lying to ourselves about our own flaws, weaknesses, blind spots, and shadow tendencies, because self-deception is the greatest enemy of self-love. It is Seneca, the great Stoic playwright, political advisor, and moral teacher, who practiced a nightly ritual of rigorous self-examination, asking himself with brutal honesty and compassionate curiosity, "What evil habit have I cured today? What vice have I resisted? In what way was I actually better than yesterday?" This is not an exercise in masochistic guilt or self-flagellation, but rather an exercise in radical awareness, a disciplined practice of looking into the mirror of your own soul without flinching or turning away, and accepting everything you see there, the good, the bad, the admirable, the shameful, the strengths, and the weaknesses, because you simply cannot improve what you refuse to acknowledge. If you are jealous of others, you must admit it. If you are lazy and procrastinating, you must own it. If you are afraid of failure or rejection, you must confess it. If you are arrogant and dismissive, you must recognize it. If you are secretly envious or bitter, you must bring it into the light of your awareness. This is not self-hatred but clarity, not condemnation but liberation, which the Stoics called prosoche, or sustained attention. It is the art of observing your own mind with the detached curiosity of a scientist studying a fascinating specimen, without harsh judgment or punitive condemnation, so that you can correct your course with precision, wisdom, and self-compassion. Self-love is not a state of passive, indulgent acceptance where you excuse every failing and celebrate every mediocrity, but rather an active, demanding, and rigorous process of continuous self-improvement. A daily discipline of saying no to your lower impulses so that you can say a resounding and joyful yes to your higher self. A practice of denying yourself that extra dessert when you have already eaten enough and your body does not need it. Of refraining from that moment of petty gossip that would temporarily bond you to others at the expense of someone else's dignity and your own integrity. Of resisting that hour of mindless, numbing scrolling that steals your attention, fragments your focus, and leaves you feeling emptier and more anxious than before. Or of walking away from that argument that you know will only escalate into pointless conflict, not because you are punishing yourself or depriving yourself out of guilt or fear, but because you are honoring yourself, treating yourself with the deep and abiding respect that a person of noble character deserves, recognizing that you have a unique destiny to fulfill and that every small choice, every seemingly insignificant decision is either a brick in the cathedral of your soul or a crack in its foundation. Over time, these bricks accumulate into an unassailable structure of genuine self-worth. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who ruled the most powerful empire in the world, yet wrote his deepest thoughts in a private journal meant for no one's eyes but his own, gave us the ultimate distillation of this truth when he wrote with characteristic brevity and power that waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. This is the highest and most transformative act of self-love. Not endlessly theorizing about who you wish to become, not dreaming passively about a better version of yourself that never materializes because you are waiting for the perfect conditions or the right motivation, not reading yet another self-help book without applying a single lesson, but actually becoming that person through deliberate, consistent, and often difficult action. You cannot fill the void of internal doubt with external praise, and you cannot substitute the hard work of character development with the cheap, fleeting satisfaction of social media validation. But rather you must fill that void with virtue itself, with the lived experience of making good choices day after day. When you act with courage in the face of legitimate fear, when you choose fairness over personal advantage even when no one is watching and no reward is forthcoming, when you remain temperate and self-controlled in the face of overwhelming temptation that promises immediate gratification, and when you practice wisdom by thinking carefully, listening deeply, and speaking thoughtfully before you act, you are building self-respect with every single choice, brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day, year by year, because the Stoics believed with absolute and unshakable conviction that the only true evil in this universe is a corrupted, vicious, and dishonorable character, and therefore the only true good is a virtuous, principled, and honorable character. This is entirely and exclusively up to you. No one else can make you wise, no one else can make you just, no one else can make you courageous, no one else can make you disciplined, no one else can make you kind, because this is your sovereign domain, your sacred responsibility, your ultimate freedom, and your greatest gift. When you fully realize that you are the undisputed master of your own moral character, you become utterly immune to the tyranny of external validation. You no longer need others to tell you that you are worthy because you have proven it to yourself through the accumulated evidence of your own actions. You no longer tremble at the prospect of criticism because you know your own integrity better than any critic ever could. You no longer seek the spotlight because your inner light is already bright enough, and you no longer fear obscurity because you know that true worth does not depend on being seen. Now, it is crucial to address a common and dangerous misunderstanding that pervades much of modern self-help culture, because many people mistakenly believe that self-love is synonymous with selfishness, indulgence, narcissism, and self-absorption. But the Stoics profoundly disagree, And they teach us instead that true self-love is actually the necessary and essential foundation for genuinely loving others, because you simply cannot give what you do not possess. If you are starving for self-worth, your relationships will inevitably become transactional, needy, codependent, and exhausting, as you look to others to provide the emotional nourishment, validation, and security that you should be providing for yourself, and you will unconsciously demand that they fill a void that only you can fill, placing an impossible burden on them and setting yourself up for disappointment. But when you have diligently built the inner citadel, when you have cultivated genuine self-esteem through virtuous action and consistent integrity, you become full, complete, self-sufficient, and whole, loving yourself not in a narcissistic, ego-driven way that excludes others, but in a mature, grounded, and overflowing way that includes everyone. This abundance allows you to love others without needing anything in return, to forgive others because you are deeply secure in your own integrity and no longer threatened by their flaws or mistakes, to give generously of your time, attention, compassion, and resources because you are not afraid of being emotionally depleted or taken advantage of, to listen deeply without the need to dominate the conversation, and to serve others without expecting recognition or repayment. In this state, you become a stable, grounded, and radiant center in a chaotic and often unstable world, a source of light rather than a black hole of need, an anchor rather than a drifting ship. And this is the highest expression of Stoic self-esteem, a self-esteem that serves not only yourself but everyone you encounter, creating a ripple effect of peace, kindness, and integrity that extends far beyond your own life. It is absolutely essential to understand that this is not a one-time achievement, a single peak you reach and then rest upon forever, but rather a daily practice, a living, breathing discipline, a muscle that must be exercised consistently and deliberately, because the world will test you every single day without exception. It will challenge your patience with frustrating people who seem designed to provoke you, your honesty with tempting opportunities that promise shortcuts and easy rewards, your courage with genuine threats and difficult decisions, your temperance with seductive pleasures that beckon you toward excess, your kindness with individuals who seem undeserving of your compassion, and your justice with situations where injustice would benefit you. This is how you build it. Moment by moment, choice by painful choice, setback by recovery, and failure by renewed effort. So when you wake up each morning, before you even check your phone or speak a single word, take a moment to sit in silence, breathe deeply, and remind yourself of your sovereign domain, saying quietly but firmly to yourself, "Today I will inevitably encounter obstacles, frustrations, difficult people, unexpected challenges, and perhaps even outright hostility. But the obstacle is the way, and I will choose reason over impulsive reaction. I will choose virtue over convenience. I will choose integrity over expediency. I will choose patience over irritation, and I will choose courage over comfort." When you inevitably face criticism, whether it is fair or unfair, delivered with kindness or with cruelty, do not react with immediate offense, wounded pride, defensive anger, or retaliatory hostility, but instead pause, take a breath, and ask yourself with genuine curiosity and intellectual honesty, is this criticism true? Is there even a kernel of truth here that I can learn from? If it is true, then embrace it as an unexpected gift, a rare opportunity for growth, and thank the critic for their honesty. But if it is not true, then simply disregard it with equanimity, because your own honest opinion of yourself, grounded in your actual actions, your consistent principles, and your lived integrity, is the only opinion that ultimately matters, and no external judgment, no matter how harsh or unfair, can diminish the worth of a soul that knows its own integrity and lives by it daily. When you feel the sharp sting of jealousy or envy rising in your chest like a hot poison as you compare your behind-the-scenes struggles, your private failures, and your internal doubts to someone else's carefully curated highlight reel, deliberately remind yourself that your path is uniquely your own, that your journey is incomparable to anyone else's because no one else has your exact combination of gifts, challenges, circumstances, and destiny, and that comparing your messy, complex, and unfinished internal reality to another's polished, filtered, and selective external appearance is an act of profound self-betrayal that robs you of your peace, distorts your perspective, and blinds you to your own unique beauty and purpose. And at the end of each day, when the noise settles, the demands cease, and the world grows quiet around you. Sit in intentional silence for at least a few minutes, free from distractions, and reflect with unflinching honesty and gentle compassion. Did I live today with integrity? Did I honor my deepest values in my actions and words, even when it was difficult? Did I act with courage, justice, temperance, wisdom, and kindness in the situations I faced? If you can answer yes, then you have won the day, regardless of what else happened, regardless of what others said or did, regardless of what you achieved or failed to achieve, because you have proven to yourself that you are a person of character. But if you must answer no, if you fell short in some way, do not despair. Do not spiral into self-loathing. Do not give up. For tomorrow is a new and merciful day to try again, to practice again, to grow again, and to become a little better than you were yesterday. Because the Stoic path is not about achieving perfection, but about making persistent, resilient, and sincere progress. About being a little more virtuous today than you were yesterday, and a little more tomorrow than you are today. This gradual, cumulative progress is the very essence of building genuine self-esteem. The ancient Stoics called this state of genuine self-esteem euthymia, which translates to well-being of the soul. A profound and enduring state of tranquility, self-possession, and inner peace that is not disturbed by the chaos, noise, turbulence, and unpredictability of the outside world. A state where you are at home with yourself, comfortable in your own skin, and secure in your own worth. When you build your self-worth on the unshakable bedrock of virtue and your own deliberate, principled choices, you become truly and irrevocably free. Free from the desperate need for approval that consumes so many. Free from the paralyzing fear of rejection that prevents so many from taking meaningful risks. Free from the exhausting, never-ending pursuit of status that leaves so many feeling empty and unfulfilled. And free from the endless, anxious comparison to others that erodes so many souls. You stop begging the world for a sense of value and instead start living it with every breath, every action, every relationship, and every choice. And you will come to the profound and liberating realization that the only person who can truly condemn you is yourself, and the only person who can genuinely praise you is yourself, because you are the ultimate judge of your own life, the final arbiter of your own worth, the sole author of your own character. So, build your esteem with diligence, consistency, and patience. Love yourself fiercely with discipline, wisdom, and compassion, not by indulging your every fleeting desire or whim, not by giving into every impulse that arises, not by avoiding discomfort or difficulty, but by holding yourself to a standard so high, so noble, and so virtuous that you become a person you are genuinely proud to be. A person of substance, character, integrity, and quiet strength. In doing so, you will discover that the deepest, most enduring validation you will ever receive is the quiet, steady, unassailable, and deeply satisfying approval of your own conscience. The inner knowing that you have done your best, that you have lived with honor, and that you have been true to yourself. So do not seek validation from a world that does not truly know you. Do not chase praise from people who cannot see your soul. Do not beg for acceptance from tribes that would reject you for being authentic. Do not trade your integrity for temporary approval, and do not sacrifice your peace for fleeting recognition. Instead, be valid, live validly, act validly, speak validly, and let your very existence, your daily choices, and your consistent character be the undeniable proof of your worth, because that is the Stoic way, that is the path to genuine self-esteem, that is the art of true self-love, and that is how you build a life of meaning, purpose, and unshakable inner peace.